So you can kind of see the guy in the red shirt here. Oh, that just focused into my finger. He got into his truck with a nice looking lady, and by nice looking lady I meant probably a prostitute. And he stood up and he's playing with his pants. So I think he's getting the old willy played with. So we're watching a BJ in progress in Indiana. Welcome to the grand old state and the beginning of G-Fest weekend.
Pokemon, Kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hey there, collectors, it's Steven here. Whew, and I just got back from G-Fest a little bit ago. It's been a couple of days now. I've been able to sort of relax myself and get back into civilization, but of course, I had quite a time there. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it somewhere in between? Of course, with me, there is no extreme. There's always a middle ground somewhere. So let's break down the trip and let me give you some of my thoughts on my G-Fest experience, which was my first one, by the way. So overall thoughts are going to be, rather interesting. So to get to G-Fest, how did it happen? What did I do? Basically, I drove with my wife for about 5 hours and 40 minutes. That's what the GPS said. And then things changed.
I see fields of corn! God damn, there's corn!
Still driving. Oh, we're getting over.
There's some bird shit.
Basically, the whole trip took about 7.5 hours because we kept hitting traffic coming on into town for G-Fest, so that was a bit annoying. Unfortunately, the original ETA was to get to our hotel, which we were not at the main one, we were at the Comfort Inn, which was just down the road. We were originally scheduled to come in at about 3 o'clock. That got pushed back all the way to about 5:30. 6 o'clock, around there. Once we got everything settled in, we ate, everything went hunky-dory fine, but unfortunately, things just didn't go as planned. Luckily for us, though, what did go as planned is we were going to have this fun trip with my buddies, Boats Can Fly, you might know him as RJ, and my buddy Justin from Justin's Bitchin' Customs. He did the 3 custom figure reviews I did back on Christmas in 2016, I believe it was. So if you want to check their works out, there should be a nice little card popping up for Boats Can Fly, and then of course a link to Justin's Bitchin' Customs Facebook page where you should definitely check him out. But anyway, we had a fun time on Friday where we pretty much just got dinner, goofed off a little bit, did a little bit of sightseeing here and there, but the big thing for Friday was we went to Giordano's. And I do have to say for that, there is one near me now, and I'm going to be going back there as often as I can. But yeah, it was fun. That was pretty much the highlight. Unfortunately, caught about half of the opening ceremonies at G-Fest, and at that point, just didn't really bother staying around for that. That's basically how late we got to the convention. I met a couple of people who I've been talking to online for the first time in forever, but aside for that, basically not a whole lot of G-Fest that day. Saw a couple of YouTubers there, didn't really say hi, just wanted to keep it kind of low-key. If anyone came up to me, that'd be cool, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. But when we got back to the hotel room, we watched a couple of movies. We did watch Zombievers, we watched a little bit of Pacific Rim Uprising, and we, of course, had to watch some Dragon Ball Z.
Be green, you have fought well, but this is the end. Now you die. I'm also the same people. No weaknesses. Damn you. You disturb me.
Now for day 2, which would be Saturday, of course, we had to do some G-Fest related stuff, but since day 2 would be the first and pretty much only full day we would have in the city, we wanted to do a couple of other things. So after waking up for breakfast, which the best thing that was there at the Comfort Inn was the apple juice. I mean, really, the sausage wasn't great. The apples were dry. That's pretty sad to say. Anyway, after having some apple juice for breakfast, we did go over to G-Fest, which I'll touch on what we did there in a little bit, but let's talk about the Chicago trip, which made the whole weekend. First and foremost, we went to the Field Museum, where we had a chance to see some cool stuff.
Field Museum.
Even got that all on camera.
So we decided to say no more G-Fest for the day, for now. And we're actually going to go see something that's interesting in Chicago. We're going to go see some dinosaurs on a dinosaur tour, right? It's big in here. I don't know what that is, but it's pretty neat. A Brachiobrontosaurus and a not woolly mammoth.
Basically, the whole point of going to the Field Museum was to see Sue, and unfortunately, Sue was not on display. For those of you who are not familiar with Sue, essentially the largest, best preserved Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton that is in existence, and the one reason why we wanted to go there, she wasn't on display. But still, we saw a lot of other cool things, and you pretty much are going to get this nice slideshow of everything that we saw, so 2 thumbs way up. Now, of course, I am a big fan of music. I mentioned that on my channel a couple of times here and there on some things that I've recently got and some things that I'm interested in. And Chicago is home to the world-renowned Chicago Music Exchange, which if you are a musician, you play guitar, bass, drums, anything like that, chances are you've heard of the Chicago Music Exchange, and you're probably going to be excited in the next couple of pictures I'm going to be showing. But for those of you who aren't aware, basically if you were to walk into any of your local music stores, you'd be able to see some $50 or maybe even $100 guitars at the waist level where you can just go up, grab them off the wall, and go to a nearest amp and play them. Here at the Chicago Music Exchange, you can find a 1960s Fender Stratocaster that was designed off of someone, I don't know, pick a famous name, that is hanging at waist level, valued at $7,000, and you can walk on over to a chair and you can play it. It's pretty cool. To really put emphasis on how cool the Chicago Music Exchange is, not only are you currently looking at a wall full of vintage Fender basses here that date back all the way to the 1970s, but there is this oddball Gibson Les Paul sitting here on this couch. It has P90s, the gold top, but what is this? Oh, it's a nearly $7,000 Gibson custom shop just chilling here on the couch. Yeah, that's just how laid back they are. Oh, and by the way, this green PRS here, yeah, I'm totally not ordering that. Nope. If you're interested in buying any of my figures, please. So that was our all-around Chicago trip for the day on Saturday. We saw a whole bunch of cool stuff that for some people will only be once in a lifetime, like going to the actual Field Museum and the Chicago Music Exchange, which was awesome all around. Even if you aren't a big fan of music or even dinosaurs or history, which I mean at that point why are you even going to G-Fest to begin with, I would definitely recommend one of these years just making a trip on over there. So this way you can at least say you saw something else than just, you know, a Godzilla while you were in Chicago for that weekend. Definitely Chicago Music Exchange, you are going to be seeing pieces of literal history that you can at least relate to in terms of pop culture, and you can say, hey, I went to go see a guitar that Joan Jett played, okay? That is really cool. Now for G-Fest, what exactly did we do on the day on Saturday? Well, unfortunately, a lot of the panels that were happening on Saturday were either just not interesting to us as a group, or they were happening when we were out and about during the day, during our trip for Chicago, you know, going to Chicago Music Exchange and the museum. So we had to carefully pick and choose what we wanted to do, and since it would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, we decided to go to Satsuma's interview.
There he is. There's the man. He's every SH Monster Arts figure in the plastic. Ever.
Overall, that was a really cool experience, and to give you sort of a rundown on what the interview was about, was basically his professional career up until the point where he first signed on with Toho and played Hedora, the Smog Monster. Huh. I wonder if I reviewed that Bandai vinyl during G-Fest weekend.
I was thinking, you know, should I not?
He's talking about showing his Godzilla doll.
The big star of Japan, I wanted to be like him, so maybe this is part of what I have to do. I still want to be an action star, so maybe this is the start. What kind of action? Yeah. But the Nikatsu, the company itself, because of where it was, where it was standing, it started to go crazy. Yeah. And when I finally thought of it, after looking at myself and thinking about it, you know, becoming naked is really not my cup of tea. And at that time, as you just mentioned, Kyle, the Mifune production came up to me.
Simply put, he talked about being an iron worker and having to wear really, really thick wooden sandals that would get burned down over time as he would work, because he would have to walk across coals and other hot surfaces. And then he'd also talk a little bit about an insider at Toho, because sometimes working with the director, the media would say that, oh, he was at odds with the director because they had their little rooms and suites across a lot from each other, and they would have to walk to meet each other, sort of putting the distance between each other because they hated each other. And also, you know, maybe he liked looking at the ladies too, and the Hedora suit wouldn't not necessarily fit properly. You know what I'm saying there, boys? Yeah. Anyway, one of the really cool things about it, though, is that he mentioned one of the studios that he was working for turned from the G audience to the well, let's just say that he would get some experience shooting his beam well before he became Godzilla. So after that for the day, there was obviously the signing, and that was actually kind of expensive. $30 for a signature and picture if you wanted it, which, you know, it is what it is, but 30, wow. I guess it was 25 on Friday. That's what I was told. So they went up on the next day. I don't know. That's kind of weird. If that's actually true, then that's kind of not good. Exploiting. Don't do that, kids. Speaking of exploiting, we also went to the dealer's room. Wow, the dealer's room. Okay, so I do have to say this. The dealer's room was by far one of the most eye-opening experiences, sort of for a physical retail location, I guess you might say, being a Godzilla collector. One of the main reasons being that there was a lot of stuff there that I've never seen before in my life. You know, so I've been collecting since about 2011-ish. Actually, yeah, that's when the first Monster Arts Godzilla came out, so 2011. And some of the stuff there I had really wanted to see. Sometimes I'd be, you know, cruising around on Mandarake or maybe Amiami's pre-owned section, Yahoo Japan, and I'm thinking to myself, that'd be pretty nice to have. But then I see it here in real life in front of me, and then after I saw it, I realized, nope, I don't want that. Nope. So it's a good showcase to see everything that was there that I kind of maybe wanted at one point, like let's say the X Plus Gigantic Series Burning Godzilla, or the humongous Bandai Candy Toy Godzilla Earth that's 50 centimeters tall. Yeah, it's a candy toy, it's 50 centimeters tall, you know, whatever. Or, you know, seeing some other X Pluses in real life, or maybe some Bandai vinyls that I've seen other people post pictures of, and it was kind of cool to see them. But at the end of the day, I didn't really want anything. I mean, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day for G-Fest, what I walked away with in terms of what I bought was obviously Monster Arts Burning Godzilla, which was already sentimental to me. Thank you, Xavier. Was actually signed by Satsuma, so that is nice to see here. You know, nice gold signature, really cool. And then I got the BX Zepandan. Yes, very cool, because somebody had actually requested that I pick this up some months ago, and I finally did. I wasn't really too big on it, but for my Juggler Shuggler review, this will definitely be in it. And then a buddy of mine hooked me up with one of these D4 Shin Godzilla 4th form for a very good price. Unfortunately, he could not include the box because the box was in storage, but he's selling me the Awakening version of this one as well for about the same price, which is really awesome. And he'll be shipping the box when he ships that one to me. So that is awesome. So all in all, the dealer's room was kind of underwhelming. Well, there's also one other thing about the dealer's room that you really need to see. A lot of the stuff here, like these, I really like. I've seen these online.
Like, I'd set this shit on the coffee table.
The original. Very cool work. Something that I have told people for years about the dealer's room at G-Fest is that everyone has been waiting. Oh, I'm going to wait to buy this at G-Fest. I'm going to wait to buy this at G-Fest, wait to buy it at G-Fest. And I keep telling them, no, don't wait to buy it at G-Fest. Just go ahead and buy it on your own. Chances are it will be much more affordable for you. I get the counter argument, but I'll be there, but I'll save on this, I'll save on that, I'll save on the other. Okay, here is a prime example of this. First and foremost, take a look at these two SH Monster Art Shin Godzilla figures. These are the maquette color version, or the G-Store exclusive, whatever you want to technically call them. Get it out of your system. Now, this seller had the fourth form by itself for $300. Right now, you can get it on Mandarake for less than half that. Or if you wanted to get forms 2 and 3 together, this seller was selling them for $400. You can get both forms on Mandarake right now for less than half of that. And yes, I am factoring in EMS shipping to you. There is absolutely no reason for these high of prices unless they are trying to scalp you. Oh, and then there's this Shin Godzilla figure and or set that was listed at $1,000. If you hop on over to Hobby Search right now, you can get them for about $350 to $400, depending on if you want the individual figure or the set. At one point, both the figure and the set were clearanced out to about $250 before shipping. I really want you to let that sink in. So this way, you don't be the one buffoon who spent $1,000 on the Monster Arts Biolante that was there apparently this weekend, and you walk away with an even smaller wallet. However, that's not to say you can't get a good deal at the dealer's room. Like for an example, this was only 30 bucks. Yeah, you might see it going online for about 25 to 40 on eBay or even Mandarake with EMS shipping, so that saved me a bit. Buddy of mine, Boats Can Fly, actually got Kelbeam, which regularly goes between 45 to 80 bucks for 20. And yes, it was in very, very good condition. He was able to barter a little bit on a movie monster series Burning Godzilla that he wanted to get. He was able to knock a couple of bucks off of that, so he was able to get a good deal there. But in some cases, there were some really outstanding, astronomical prices. Let's bring it on back down to earth, boys. Come on, let's be reasonable. I know you got to ship to and from, but how much of a markup is too much? I've worked in sales. I know these things. So yeah, basically you might say that it was kind of small, unimpressive, not too much there aside from a neat showroom. Kind of seemed to be big, loud, flashy online, but when you actually show up in real life, it's not that big. Not too big of a deal. Like when you show up, it's actually very small. So small that it might have to stand up on a chair and shout at people to get attention, or maybe even just come up to my shoulders when we walk past each. Oh no, the dealer's room. Yeah. So long story short, the dealer's room. Be careful, guys. Spend your money wisely. Now, one thing that I really do appreciate in pretty much my everyday, day-to-day life would definitely be art. And it's really cool here because there's also Artist Alley, which you get to see some really amazing artwork, and I'll be nice, some artwork that could be better with a little bit of practice here and there. But realistically speaking, some amazing prints were there for purchase, some really talented artists, and I gotta be completely honest with you, if I had more money to spend, I would have walked away with some really, really cool prints. So here's just a quick look at some of the stuff we saw at Artist Alley. Now, I kind of got a fanboy out here for a moment and give a quick shout out to not only Dope Pope, who was there, who actually designed the Titanicus figure that we're going to be getting relatively soon. Some really neat artwork just aside from that, so if you're interested in seeing some cool 3D models, definitely check out Dope Pope stuff. But also, Shev? Pronunciation there? I don't know if I'm getting that right, but anyway, really cool artwork. I got to see some of the line art stuff before it was put into full production for things like prints and whatnot. I have to say, really nice job, still impressed. Good job on Shin Godzilla. So you also want to check out his stuff too. Links will of course be in the description down below. You don't want to miss some of the cool stuff that was there. So definitely, yeah, Artist Alley, some really neat stuff, some stuff that I think that with time maybe we can see a little bit of a evolution there, but also something else. There was a lot of tracing, which, guys, stop doing that. That's not a knock against G-Fest. I'm just saying, like, guys, come on. Us smarter folks are well aware of what's going on. But anyway, yeah, Artist Alley was really cool to see, and I do have to say that from an overall experience standpoint, I would have to say it was a bit better than the dealer's room, which is a good thing to say there. Now, I do have to say pretty much the last big thing for G-Fest that we experienced was Saturday night. There was a party at the patio. It wasn't really necessarily a party. It was just kind of like a stand around and BS kind of thing. And I have to say that was one of the highlights of G-Fest, and I think it's going to be true for pretty much everyone. Yeah, the dealer's room's the dealer's room, Artist Alley's Artist Alley. There are some awesome things that go on with some of the guests that they have, like I guess Satsuma was hanging out with a couple of folks. Don Fry was walking around pretty much everywhere, interacting with all of the fans that he could. So you do have some neat things like that. But the one thing that I really think is hammered home for G-Fest is pretty much the social experience here. Case in point, we have someone coming from Texas. We have someone coming from California. We have a couple of folks coming from Ohio, from Connecticut, pretty much from all corners of the United States. In some cases, even the globe, even beyond Japan, coming to one location near Chicago to come together and talk about a common interest, whether or not it's going to specifically be Godzilla, or maybe even some cases it's going to be Monster Hunter, which is awesome, by the way. If you haven't tried it, you should at least try Monster Hunter once in your life. So I think that is the overall main goal for G-Fest, is to go there and meet people who you've maybe only spoken to a couple times online, or to actually try to maybe meet someone new. That is what I really liked about G-Fest. That's what I really took away from G-Fest, was actually having the chance to meet people who I've only spoken with over the last 5 or so years, or maybe the last nearly 10 years now that I've been in the fandom. And that's pretty much just what that Saturday night was on the patio. It's just a chance to talk to some people, get to know them, even though it was pretty much a couple of people who I already knew, and I got to see some people stand on chairs and yell at people. But anyway, that I think was the golden aspect of G-Fest. Saturday night for movie night, it was basically just Ultraman the Next back at the hotel room, and then after that, we all kind of fell asleep. Yeah, pretty boring. Sunday, it was basically more of the same. We went back to the dealer's room and we said goodbye, basically. And then here's just one quick community shot of everything that me and the group got. The only thing that's not shown here is that my wife did pick up 2 awesome mini diorama sets that were basically casts of them, so they're unpainted. So basically she has to do that on her own, but since she's an amazing artist, she can definitely take care of those by herself, and we'll see those relatively soon. After saying goodbye, we had a nice 5-hour and 40-minute trek back home, which of course traffic did not interrupt one bit. Them's the brakes. That's how it goes. But anyway, G-Fest weekend. Not only was it just G-Fest, we had a little bit of this guy here, but we had a little bit of Chicago and some other interests bound together. And I think that's what really made this trip. Now, admittedly, unfortunately, I did lose a whole day of G-Fest, so I really, truly didn't get a full, entire G-Fest experience, and maybe if I go back next year, we're going to be looking to see what we can do to circumvent that, seeing maybe we can book a room earlier, seeing maybe if we'll just say, screw it and fly. Who knows? Who knows? You know, we gotta evaluate financial situations and all that fun stuff, but overall, for this first G-Fest experience, I would have to say, for the net gain or net loss, we're in the positive here, just because I got to experience so many other things than just Godzilla. You know, I got to experience the Field Museum as well. I got to go to the Chicago Music Exchange. That was cool. And yeah, there were a lot of cool things. I'm not saying how I know this. I'm not going to allude to anything beyond this just because, yeah. But I'm very glad I got the Heisei Godzilla to sign something. And I'm glad I went when I did. But overall, I think the best thing was meeting people who I've never met before. You know, I've seen their face, heard their voice. We've done live chat once or twice, but physically seeing, you know what I mean? But other than that, G-Fest in and of itself pretty much met my expectations, where there was only going to be maybe 1 or 2 panels the whole weekend I'd be interested in, maybe a couple of things that I wanted to pick up in the dealer's room. In this case, this guy actually was arranged prior to G-Fest, so he technically doesn't count. And this one was just, you know what? I should probably get something. Admittedly, I'm not every collector, but, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I think G-Fest for me will be one of those experiences where I will go not necessarily every year, but maybe every couple of years to keep things fresh. Oh, I said the word. Positive experience, but I do think that I'm going to have to rotate G-Fest out with maybe a couple of other things, just because it was kind of exhausting to and back and trying to figure out what we were going to do every step of the way. So all in all, 2 thumbs up. But for the next one, I don't quite know where the magic is going to be. Maybe that's part of the draw for G-Fest. Maybe I'm unique in my own experiences, but who knows? Generally speaking, though, I think that if you haven't gone to G-Fest, you should at least go once, like I did, and you should at least maybe see if you can go in hopes of meeting a friend who you've never met before, or going with other people, and maybe preferably somebody who hasn't gone before, and seeing maybe what you can do together. Maybe take someone who's only been a casual fan of Godzilla. Who knows? But anyway, to sort of wrap it up and put a nail in the coffin, G-Fest was good, pretty much met my expectations, which were mild-tempered to begin with, let's say. But overall, I had a good time, and if you haven't gone, I think you should.
Oh, Jesus did say that ass was fat.
Oh, yeah, and I did meet some of you guys. Yeah, you think I'd forget? No, I didn't. Anyway, yeah, so that's something that I think was also pretty cool. Met some of you guys there. Some of it was just a quick wave. Hey, how you doing? Others, it was like a couple-minute long conversation, which I really did appreciate. So those of you who actually came up to say hi, that was awesome. Some of you, I did recognize you, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. I had quite a crazy weekend so far going into it, and I kind of wanted to mild things out a little bit, so I didn't go in full guns a-blazing. I went in with a little bit more tempered expectations, so to speak. So if I didn't see you, or if I didn't say hi to you for whatever reason, one way or another, it was quite a weekend. Next time, though, we're going to do things a little differently, and you will definitely know Steven's there.